All right, hello and welcome. This is going to be a quick and dirty introductory video into formatting an Excel workbook, and we're going to be doing that using financial statement data as just example data. So I've got split screens here. On the right-hand side of my screen is my internet browser where I'm at Yahoo Finance and I'm at the Bank of Nova Scotia, a Scheduled 1 bank in Canada. And they have here income statement, balance sheet, cash flow. Um, and I've got the annual selection option. And you can see here that we'll start with the income statement, that they have quite detailed line item financial statement information available on Yahoo Finance. And all I've done is I've basically copied and pasted the data from Yahoo Finance into Microsoft Excel. But when I do that, it includes a tremendous amount of detail where at the top you can see is our total revenue, which is this 37 million, which is the same 37 million that you will see in my spreadsheet. However, it goes to quite a granular level as well. And it's quite easy to see that there are like line items that or subtotals along the way. Um, However, when I copied and pasted the data over, it didn't make it clear what was a subtotal and what was actually a line item. So all I've done in advance of this is I've just put an X next to all of the subtotals that I am interested in. And that's going to be useful for us later in this video. It's going to allow me to do what I want to do a little bit quicker by just acknowledging upfront the totals that I'm interested in. But ultimately, all I've done is I've copied and pasted the balance sheet in cash flow and income statement into this Excel workbook. And I've designed a couple of tasks for us that is just going to be formatting only, and to enable us to print what will be just better, more presentable financial statements than what you see here, than what the data came to us. In fact, I did it just before recording this, and then I printed it to a PDF. And all I did to do this was click on File Print, and this is how it came out. So we're gonna work from this workbook to get from this to this, and I don't think it will take all that long. And most of the skills here are really quite intuitive. Um, so hold on to your seats. All right, so to get to that PDF, I just typed out basically what I had done, and now I'm going to record those series of steps. So the first thing here, it says to create a summary worksheet. So to add a new worksheet into a workbook, you have all of the worksheets along the bottom. Sometimes these are referred to as tabs. To add a new worksheet, it's just the plus button next to the rightmost worksheet. So I click on plus. When I do that, it will add a new worksheet here. I'll just drag this actually to the left, and I'll rename it to summary. So just double click and type over the name. And in this worksheet, actually what I'm going to do, so I'm not toggling back and forth, is I'm going to copy and paste the instructions. So in cell A1, type Bank of Nova Scotia, and in A2, part B here is type annual financial statements. And then what I need to do is just increase the font size. So what I'm going to do for each of these, I mean, if I know the exact size I want to go to, I could select that. I can just kind of hover my cursor over the size I think that looks good, and it will give me a preview of that in the background. Alternatively, there are these shortcuts to either decrease or increase. So I'll just go until I find a size that I think looks good. 36, sure. And annual financial statements, I'll make this like a subheading. It's not quite as big. I'll go to 20. And actually, I'm going to italicize this as well. So there's a shortcut or a button for it right beneath the font type. So I click on that to italicize it. I could also Control I on my keyboard to turn it off and on. Control I. And then it says change the tab color to orange. So that's referring to this summary worksheet. So to change the tab color, I right click and go tab color. And I'm going to just pick, sure, this orange one to apply color to that worksheet. Now, see, quick, easy, not much to it. Step one is already behind us. Now, why did I just do that? Um, why did I just apply tab color? Well, one, I guess, is kind of cool. But two, it's actually like a pretty nice way for us to just organize or have a heuristic for remembering the work that we have done versus the work or how something came to us. So I use little highlights like that quite often when I'm working um, with data. For example, if I need to add a helper column to the data as a helper column to the data in order to do something, what I'd like to do is just highlight that helper color field, the label for the column, column name, highlighted something different than the raw data to know like this is a calculation that I have done versus this is how the data came to me. So I like to preserve the integrity of what I download. Don't change anything. If I'm making calculations, identify the calculations just by formatting them differently. So the same principle here. This is a worksheet that I'm adding into the workbook. So I'm going to highlight it differently so that when I reopen this workbook, I have a memory of what I did here. Anyway, so part two here, it says copy the relevant line items from each financial statement. So that's what I was referring to at the beginning. I've already gone through and identified the rows that I'm interested in copying and pasting. So I want to just, all of these ones that are labeled with an X for each financial statement, I want to pull them into this summary worksheet. And we're not going to do anything fancy here in order to do that. But we are going to start with the balance sheet first, and then we'll do the income statement and cash flow statement. So to do this, like really quite quickly, what I'm going to do is select my data and go to data on the ribbon, and I'm going to apply a filter, and then I'm just going to filter for those X's. So remove everything else. And now I'll select this data, Control C, go into my summary worksheet, and I didn't mean to also include those X's in my selection. Hold on. Control C to get rid of those X's, and Control V. As simple as that. Next up is the income statement, and I'm going to repeat the same procedure. So apply a filter to the data. I'm going to filter for the X's, so remove rows that do not have X's, and then I'm going to copy paste my income statement, maybe just beneath here. Oops. And lastly, the cash flow statement. Hold on. Apply a filter, remove the blanks, and copy this over. Okay, so we've done step two. Notice how when we copied them over, the cell width was too narrow such that it actually can't display the cell value. I mean, for some of them it can, but for others, the cell width is not wide enough, nor can it display the label for the line item. So total assets here. So I'm going to auto fit my column width by selecting all of them. So column B all the way to column F, then position my cursor between the two columns such that I get a vertical bar with a horizontal two-way arrow, and then double click, and that will adjust all of the columns accordingly. All right, now we're going to start to format these. Like this is a little bit better. The presentation is just a little bit more focused than originally or the source data, because there's fewer accounts. What I did is I just took out like the lines that I'm less interested in analyzing, but maintained all of the subtotals and totals that are appropriate. So for example, here we have cash and cash equivalents and funds as a subcategory of total assets. And then within this subcategory, there would be cash and cash equivalents. And within cash and cash equivalents, there would be cash and cash due from banks. So for example, these two numbers right here, they form this 65,000. And then this 65,000 here plus this 203,000 is the 268,000. So I indented these to kind of show the hierarchy here. And what we could do actually, if we were interested in maintaining this level of detail and we're not interested in just these subtotals, is we could group them. So I could go to the data tab on the ribbon with these two rows selected, and on the outline group, say group, apply group to a row, and then I can collapse those here. So these two numbers, the 65,000 here, collapse those, and they're gone. And then if I can like look if I need to. So that would be one way of going about doing what we're trying to do, is the indentation plus grouping. For an exercise like this, where we're really just focused on printing and making it look good to print, it would be too time consuming to do that. So I'm going to recommend against it just for the purpose of this video alone. But grouping can have benefits, and we'll see that later on in the course. So it says format each financial statement below. So the first thing here is apply a color fill to the header row. What I recognize, like the header row here might not be obvious what that is. What I'm referring to there is just like the total row. So the total assets is the total row. Yahoo Finance just positions the total assets right at the top, and then everything beneath it. So these numbers, for example, that are all beneath it, form part of that total. So in the bottom right, you can see the sum of my selection. I have the 1460042, which is that number there. In fact, just to illustrate it, I'll directly insert a sum function to all of these assets here, not the total, just to show that I didn't exclude anything that was important. We still have all of the appropriate subtotals that make up the whole, and we do for all of the assets, revenue, liability, equity, in each appropriate section in the cash flow statement as well. So operating, financing, and investing. Okay, so all we're going to do is apply a color to the header row, like fill it, just so that it stands out a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the data that I want to apply a fill to, and in the Home tab on the ribbon and in the font group, there's this fill button. And what I'll do is I'm just going to apply a generic one. I'm not too picky on formatting, but we're going to just minimally format this here. So I'm going to do this light gray background too. And it's still selected, which is great, because the next thing I need to do is bold those header rows. So I'm just going to click on bold here with it selected, or I could Control B on my keyboard to turn bold on and off. Okay, so this is what I'm calling my header row, which is the total of the balance sheet section. And we know the balance sheet is assets, liabilities, and equity. Those are the three main areas of the balance sheet. If I want to apply consistent formatting to the header rows for liabilities and equity, what I can do is copy to my clipboard the formatting of these cells only. So with my selection here, I could go to this format painter and then find my total liabilities, and it will apply the formatting there as well. So format painter, and now I need to go to my equity and do that. Alternatively, what I could do is just select the data I want. So total revenues, I have net income here and pre-tax income. And on my cash flow statement, I'll have operating cash flows, investing, Should be financing. There we are. Just wasn't seeing it. And I think that they have a summary like end position. Yeah. So just control on my keyboard to select them all. And with them all selected, I'm going to control B to bold them and apply my fill. So nothing too extravagant there. Next is to indent the line items. So I kind of already did that when I was on the other worksheet. So I'm just going to select all of these. These are all like subtotals of the total, or these all make up the whole at the top. I'm going to indent these. So in the alignment group, I'll do 1 or 2 here just to make it clear that these form part of the hierarchy. These are all liability accounts. And then down here, these are all equity accounts. Similarly, you know what? I'm just going to use Control on my keyboard to select the remaining accounts that I'm interested in. And do 2 indents. So there we go. So, I mean, it's fairly clear now whether or not these are asset accounts, just because of the indentation. And I mean, clearly these are bolded, and we should have some familiarity with what assets, liabilities, and equity are. But just to make it extra clear, perhaps what we can do, or what I'm going to do, is add a label on the left-hand side of this. It says label each financial statement section. So I'm going to label all of these as assets. But the way I'm going to do it is by merging cells. So if here, for example, are 2 cells, but if these are like a header for something, I can merge those cells so that around it, like there's 2 cells and then 1 cell, then 2 cells. This 1 cell spans 2 different columns. You can do the same thing with rows. So I'm going to select all of these rows, and I'm going to merge these ones, and I'm going to just type assets. Now, right now, this doesn't really look very, very good. But what I can do is vertically align it in the center, 1. But maybe what I want to do is have the text also be vertical. So in the alignment group, I can hit this down arrow, and I can say it's like vertical text going upwards. So I'm going to do that same thing for liabilities. Merge it and center it. Liabilities. Do the same thing for equity. Here we have total revenue, which is actually, I think, just just those are total revenue, these 2, and then these are actually like expenses. So here, but there is no like expense subtotal. So here I'll just say revenues and expenses. And this is a measure of operating income, pre-tax income. Then we have net income. So we'll just have a kind of a global section here, maybe called earnings. These are operating activities. I'll just say operating. investing, financing, and net changes. All right. So with all of these now, just apply consistent formatting to all of them. And apply a fill. Oops. All right, not bad. All right, so I know that this top one is the balance sheet. I know the balance sheet is assets, liabilities, and equity. But maybe I'm preparing this for somebody that doesn't know. So we're gonna label each financial statement accordingly. So this one, of course, is the balance sheet. And if I type the balance sheet, I mean, it looks out of place here. It doesn't look like a title at all. But what we can do is make it a title very quickly by applying a cell style. And I'm going to apply a cell style to the columns that are all above this balance sheet. So including the date columns as well. The cell style on the home tab here, cell styles group, these are like built-in formatting rules that exist. So there is this like headings group here, which is kind of nice. And you get a preview of it if you just hover over. You can see the cell changing beneath it. So I'll select heading one. I'm going to use that as a starting point, but maybe I don't like it. All of the text everywhere is black. This cell style by default is blue, which is okay. But you know what? Maybe I want it black, and maybe I want my borders to be black as well. So what you can do is right click on the cell, format cell. I'm going to say border. I'm going to make sure that it's a black border and apply it to the bottom border and click OK. Maybe I'll make this just 1 or 2 sizes bigger. Balance sheet. That doesn't look too bad. All right. Next up was the income statement. Now that was quite a bit of work there. I mean, I used the default cell style as a beginning point there. Then I made some changes to it to kind of blend with the formatting here. So similar to what I did before is I'm just going to use the format painter just to apply that formatting here. And then lastly, I have my cash flow statement. My format painter, and apply it to this title. Now that cell style we just saw, these are the pre-packaged ones, but you can create your own cell style, and that's what we're going to do now. It says beneath each financial statement, write the sentence, all numbers are in thousands. And that's true. If we were to look here from Yahoo Finance, it says all numbers are in thousands. So basically add 3 more zeros to the number is what that means. So beneath each financial statement, I want that disclaimer here. All numbers are in thousands. But that kind of stands out a little bit. So let's change this font. So I've got the cell selected. What is it telling us to do? It says font type is Times New Roman. So I'll change it to Times New Roman. I think it was size 10, so make it a little bit smaller. And in light gray in color. So make the text a light gray color. I can hardly see it, but that's okay. It is there. All numbers thousands. I'll do it a little bit darker. Okay. Save font formatting as a cell style. All right. So to save this, like if that's font like formatting that I'm going to be using a lot in this workbook, I can save that as a cell style. So I'm going to select the cell now, go to cell styles and say new cell style. I'll call this like does it give me a name? I don't think it gave me a name. I'll call this like the thousands disclaimer or whatever. And if I had borders and I wanted to keep the borders, I would make sure that this is selected. If it had a fill and I wanted to keep the fill, I would keep it selected. In fact, I will keep all of these things selected right now and click OK. Now what I'm going to do, like now that's like a font style that I can apply anywhere. So if I did, for whatever reason, want it here in my cell styles, I have this new like custom, that's my thousands disclaimer style here. So you can kind of see on the credit losses and provisions, the cell that's selected, when I hover over it, it's applying that cell style and it's pushing it to the left, the indentation, because that's the formatting that is applied to the style I had defined. So that's how you create a cell style. Now I'm just going to copy and paste. Copying and pasting just straight up will also preserve that. So what is next here is to create a highlights section above the balance sheet and calculate some ratios. So I said the focus of this video is going to be on formatting the workbook, and yes, that's true. We're just going to add on 5 ratios that are common for bank stocks, and we're going to put that at the very top in a highlights section. So I'm going to have to insert some rows. I think there's how many here that are 5. I need about 5, or maybe I need about 7 or 8 rows in order to do that, to have the spacing fit nicely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select, I don't know, however many rows this is, and then right click and then insert. And what that's going to do is shift everything below down. Okay, so I'm just going to put maybe all of these up a little bit higher so that to limit the scrolling that I have to do. So I said a highlight section above the balance sheet to calculate these ratios. So let's just format a title here. What I'm going to do is copy and paste the balance sheet and the dates and just paste it here, and I'll have a highlights section. And we're going to have some ratios. So the first one, A, it says return on tangible common equity. We'll just put the labels here. Return on assets, efficiency ratio, deposits to assets, equity to assets. Okay, so these are just these 5 that are listed here. I literally just typed them over here. Okay, so all right, it tells me here what the formula is. Return, it says net income available to common shareholders divided by common equity minus goodwill. So this is basically like return on equity, which is what most people are familiar with. This is really just what's called like tangible capital. It excludes goodwill in the equity calculation. So it's basically a better measure of capital efficiency than just the standard return on equity metric. So here the formula, net income available to common shareholders. So that would be an income statement item here, right there, divided by my common equity minus my goodwill. Return on assets, similar. I have my net income. Here, I'm going to take my not just my net income available to common stockholders, but I'm going to do my global net income and divide it by the average of total assets. Efficiency ratio. Here, this measures like operating expense needed to generate $1 of revenue. Um, Lower ratios here indicate better leverage in larger banks. So I have my non-interest expense divided by total revenue. Non-interest expense divided by my revenue. And then I have equity to assets. Or no, sorry, deposits to assets. Deposits divided by total assets. Total deposits divided by total assets. And then equity to assets. Where am I here? Total equity divided by total assets. Now, what is common here is that each of these metrics are percentages. So we can format this, of course, as a percentage. So this is a pre-packaged like shortcut number format, percent style. So I'm going to select the numbers and show it as a percentage. It will round to the nearest whole percent. But if I want to include or exclude certain decimals, I can do that. Here I'm going to show up to 3 decimal places. Because I'm in Excel now, I can just copy and paste to fill out the remaining years. So there we have it. So I have these ratios here. But what it is asking me to do is to add conditional formatting to the best and the worst for each metric. Now, conditional formatting is a very useful formatting tool that will automatically apply formatting to a cell if a certain condition or criteria fits. Or we can just apply it to like the top or the bottom of something, or if something is above average or below average or whatever. And it helps to focus your attention on certain items that within your selection. So to apply conditional formatting, there is this conditional formatting group here. If I want to apply it to the best metric, it's going to be a top or bottom rule. And I have this like top 10 items list here. So I'm going to select that one. I know it's top 10, but I'm just going to rename that to like my top 1. And I want my top 1 to be green. So I'll click on OK. And if I want to apply like formatting to the worst one here, that's going to be the lowest value. So that's going to be a bottom 10, but I'm not going to say all bottom 10. I'm going to just say the bottom 1 and click OK. So you can see here with just this very first metric that exists that in the past 4 years, at least for Scotiabank, the best year, according to this metric, was 4 years ago, and the worst year is this year. So it highlights the trend automatically. So we're going to just do that exact same procedure for the remaining metrics here. Return on assets, of course, this is a higher number. The higher the number, the better it is. So conditional formatting, top or bottom, top 1. We're going to do green, the bottom 1, we'll do red. The efficiency ratio here is actually like the lower the value, the better it is. The numerator here is an expense item. So we don't want expenses to be higher. So a lower efficiency ratio means that the bank is spending less to generate each dollar of revenue, which is a measure of leverage and cost control here. So the lower the value, the better. So I'm going to say here, the top 10, not top 10, but the top one, in this case, I do want is red. And now the bottom one, if I'm just looking for the top and the bottom, is green. Deposits to assets here. Generally, with this metric, a higher value is better. And then equity to assets, generally, again, higher is better as well. Now, what we can do is our format painter here, just in case we ever forget. We could have like a little legend with like the green here is good, red is bad. However, it's probably straightforward enough that we don't need to do that. So that's step 5, just these metrics here. Now, step 6, I'm going to just reduce the spacing here, but notice how if I delete these rows, I'm actually going to delete part of my instructions, and I'll just do it to show you. I lost some of my instructions there, but the spacing over here is much better. So Control Z to undo that. But what I can do instead is just select these cells, right click, and then delete. And I'm going to say shift the cells up. So what that will do is shift the cells up beneath my selection, and it won't adjust anything over here to the right. So shift cells up, and that looks much better. Okay, what I should do while I'm here perhaps is, actually, you know what, this looks all right. Let's apply close this out by applying some page level formatting. So it says set the print area so columns A through G will print. So right now, if I were to print, I'm going to hit Control P, so we can just get a preview of what this looks like. It looks like it doesn't print everything, or like, sorry, it's printing everything, but it doesn't print it very well. There's like a hanging column. I have to scroll all the way down to page 6 and 7 to see. So I don't like this. If I wanted to see what that preview would be like before going to my print preview, we have these options in the bottom right next to the zoom. There's this page layout and this page break layout. So this page layout, if I were to click on it, will show me basically one page, how it will print, and I can see that hanging column a little bit better. So this shows me the margins as if it were to print on an actual page. So I can scroll down and just get a glimpse of how this is set up to print like this. And similarly, with the page break, it shows me what page 1, page 2, page 3, and so on. And you can see that hanging column. Now I'm going to go back to normal view. What I'm going to do instead is just define a print area. So I'm going to select everything. So I have A1 selected now. I'm going to hit Shift on my keyboard to select everything between. And I'm going to select all the way over to F in row 110. And then I'm going to go to page layout. And here in the page setup group, I have this print area. I'm going to say set print area. And it looks like nothing really happened. But now if I go to Control P and print, I'm still going to get an ugly print setup because I'm going to have that hanging column. But now you might notice, or I don't know if you did or not, If I go back, this text here doesn't print. So I'll go back to my print preview just to show you. Those text level instructions weren't printing. In my first print preview, they were all there. So what that means is like I could have here explanations of each ratio that I would like. Maybe I want the formula here for my own reference. I know I deleted them, but I could have them here for my own reference when I'm creating this for my boss or something. But if I'm printing this for my boss doesn't want to see what those formulas are. My boss just wants the end result. So I set my print area to exclude maybe my explanation or some assumptions that you have or something, and then they just won't print. So I said A through G. I set my print area to A to F. That's okay. So it says set page breaks. So if I go into page breaks, this view here for page breaks, I can better see what is going on. And I can see that column F is actually being excluded. So basically, I don't want that. I want column F to be included. So I can take this blue line and just drag it over to the right. In actually just doing that, manually setting the page break, now, I mean, I could go into my print preview from here, but if I hit Control P now, so we can see my print preview, I can see that all 4 columns are there. And this is much, much cleaner. Notice how, however, though, when I scroll my Bank of Nova Scotia annual financial statements, that doesn't repeat on the subsequent pages. Maybe I want that to be repeated on every single page. So let's go and set that up. In fact, that is actually part C here. So we're gonna jump ahead and do part C, or no. Let's set the page breaks. Highlights and balance sheet on page 1, income statement on page 2, cash flow statement on page 3. All right, I'm gonna go back into my page break view here. We'll just do that really quick. My highlights and my balance sheet on page 1. So I'm gonna take this dotted line here. This dotted line indicates that it is automatically set by Excel. I'm just going to drag that down to beneath my balance sheet. So I have page 1 is my highlights in my balance sheet. I'm going to go down to my income statement and set a page break. Whoa, oops. Actually, this is cleaner. 2 pages only. I don't know why I wrote the instructions to have it print on 3 when it's not necessary. This is much cleaner to have it print on 2. We'll see. So now in my print preview, I have page 1, page 2. It is a little bit small. We'll see. On the second page, though, it doesn't include Bank of Nova Scotia annual financial statements. Maybe I want it to include that on all subsequent pages. So that's this part here. Maybe I want that printed across all pages. And it says also to add page numbers into the footer of each page. So we can do that actually all at the same time. Now, one way to do that is actually by going into my print preview, and I have this page set up here, this button on the left. There's this header and footer, and I want a custom footer here. Maybe I want to add page numbers in the right section of the page. Right now, the footer you can see is empty. So I can say like insert a page number and insert the number of pages. So page number 1, if I click on this button, then I'm going to type of, and then pages. So when I click OK and OK, now I have the page number in the bottom right-hand side of my cell. So 1 of 2 and 2 of 2. 1 of 2, 2 of 2. All right. So that's like adding the page number into the footer. Ensure the titles of Bank of Nova Scotia and annual financial statements will print on each page. So here there's this print titles button under the page layout group or tab on the ribbon. Now I have to say like where my titles are. I mean, I've defined my print area already. I could edit my header and footer here. But I want to repeat the top 2 rows on every single page. So I'm going to select rows 1 and rows 2 and then click OK. Now, if I go to my print preview, I have Bank of Nova Scotia, as I did before on page 1. If I go to page 2, it repeats Bank of Nova Scotia annual financial